20 years. These are the people that got me elected every time. To be here with you, I mean, and that's what's going to happen in November. She's going to win so big in Oakland. We're going to have to search to see any votes for what's his name. So I'm not going to make a long speech, and that's hard for a senator. But I'm going to give it every shot I have. You know, for me to be standing here with someone that I really, in many ways, grew up with in politics. Not that I was a child when I met her, she was. But I met Hillary when she was campaigning for one of the greatest presidents of all time, Bill Clinton. 23 million jobs, a surplus, and we were at peace for those years, pretty much all those years. And at that time, she put healthcare on the map. Do you remember? She did. And she was the first one to push getting children universal healthcare. Yes. A lot of people talk the talk. She walks the walk. She's walked it for a long time, and we know because we've walked it with her every step of the way. And then Hillary came to the United States Senate, and I watched her. I had encouraged her to do this. You know, when you go up against the New York press, that's like a hazing, isn't it? And there she was, and all of a sudden, less than a year that she was there, where she was listening and getting things done across the aisle, came 9/11. And Hillary Clinton's state was suffering mightily. And she went down to ground zero, and she stood there. And she went to bat for those brave first responders, the firefighters, the policemen, who were exposed to these chemicals. And she got legislation done to take care of them. And they'll never forget that, for sure. And then Secretary of State, when she went there, we were at a low point in the world. People didn't believe in America around the world. And inch by inch and step by step, she got people to understand America is great when we all work together. And you are in one of the most diverse cities in America, the 11th most diverse. Yes. List of things I was going to do. I just can't do it. Because I want to hear Hillary. I want to hear myself. So Hillary, Senator, and I've been there for 24 years. Boxer in Oakland, California. I am so happy to be here, and especially happy to be with your senator. There is just no way I can describe to you the impact that Barbara has had in the Senate, the leader of the progressive numbers that we have to keep building, but she was a majority of one a lot of the times, standing up and fighting for what she knew was right for America and what she knew California needed. I was so honored to serve with her and to see her in action, and I have to say, we are really going to miss Barbara Boxer in the United States. But I think her influence and her extraordinary example will live on, because she made such a difference in the lives of so many people. And just for me, I was fortunate to serve on the Environment and Public Works Committee when Barbara was the chair, when she was the ranking member, and her passion for the environment and her understanding that the environment is not a luxury, it is a necessity that we have to protect, and that we have to take whatever steps we can to ensure it's there for the next generation. And she also was the leader on drawing the connection between environmental pollution and contaminants and children's health. And I'm going to be calling her a lot if I'm so fortunate enough to be president, because she's also really good at politics, and she gets one-liners better than anybody. So thank you, Barbara, for being here with me. I also want to thank the mayor of Oakland, Libby Jaff, who is here as well. There are a lot of elected officials, members of the assembly, and others. I thank them all for being here with me. I look forward to working with you on behalf of Oakland and the Bay Area and this great state. You know, we're going to have a terrific campaign in California. We are working. I stopped by with Libby to one of our headquarters here in Oakland and met so many of the people who are showing up every day, making the phone calls, walking the streets, talking to voters. Because this election is a make or break election in so many ways. And I gotta tell you, when I think about what's at stake, even if I weren't running for president, I would be doing everything I could to make sure that the presumptive nominee of the Republican Party never gets near the White House. Selected a nominee because, you know, the economy does better when we have a Democrat in the White House. And if you look at our last two Democratic presidents, they set a pretty good example for what it is we need to be doing to create jobs, to raise incomes, to get our country back to broad-based, inclusive prosperity. My husband's administration. And you know, I don't want it to seem like we're going over ancient history, but let's remember 23 million new jobs, incomes rose for everybody. The median family income went up 17%. The median African American income went up 33%. Everybody benefited. More people were lifted out of poverty, and yes, we did end up with a balanced budget and a surplus. When people raise questions about those 8 years, my question back is, what didn't you like, the peace or the prosperity?
taxes on the wealthy, take their eyes off the financial and mortgage markets, and look where we ended up. 9 million lost jobs, 5 million lost homes. And I don't think President Obama gets the credit he deserves for taking us out of that ditch. So I am proud of the economic record of the Obama administration. But we gotta go further, don't we? Because most Americans haven't had a raise in 15 years. And we don't have enough good jobs. We don't have the kind of investments in infrastructure, advanced manufacturing, clean renewable energy jobs, small business that we need to lift up more people here in Oakland and across California and America. And we do have to follow the example of California and raise the federal minimum wage. And one of the fastest ways to raise income is to finally guarantee equal pay for women's work. I gotta tell you, this is not just a woman's issue, although of course it is. If you have a mother, a wife, a sister, or a daughter, and you have at least one of those, it's a family issue. It's an economic issue. There is no discount for being a woman when you go to check out at the supermarket, is there? And women of color are paid even less. So it will be my highest priority to do what we need to do, we try to do, but we will finally do, and that is to guarantee equal pay. Everything I've just said, the Republicans disagree with. And their presumptive nominee, otherwise called their presumptuous nominee, has made it really clear. He basically said wages are too high in America. And that's why he doesn't think we need to raise the minimum wage. And I gotta tell you, I ask myself all the time, who is he talking to? I have now talked with thousands of people over the last year, and I know wages need to go up. And then, of course, he doesn't think much of equal pay for women, because, of course, he doesn't think much of women, it turns out. And so our challenge is to make our case to the American people. But our case and the agenda we have will lift up lives, will improve opportunities, will break down the barriers that stand in the way of Americans getting ahead and staying ahead. And we've got to do that not just for the economic barriers. We've got to knock down the education barriers. Every child deserves a good teacher and a good school. Tuition. You don't have to borrow a dime to go to college. And I have laid out a way to pay for it and make it work for everybody, middle-class families, working, poor families. My esteemed opponent, Senator Sanders, has a plan for what he calls free college. But you know, my late father said, anytime someone tells you it's free, read the fine print. Now, personally, I don't want to be paying for Donald Trump to send his kids and grandkids to college. I want to be paying to send your kids and grandkids to college. And of course, there's that little detail that 1/3 of the money that he is putting into this has to come from the states. So that means all the states with Republican governors and Republican legislatures would have to spend billions of dollars in order to make it free. I personally am not going to count on that. We're going to have the plan that I've laid out, which will immediately begin to offer debt-free tuition. And we're also going to be working to help people who already have debt to pay it down. And in fact, offer opportunities for people to have their entire loan forgiven. Think about this. You can refinance your mortgage, you can refinance your car payment, you ought to be able to refinance your student loan. And once you get the cost down, you ought to be able to have what's called a contingency repayment program, so you pay it back as a percent of what you're earning. Because that's what I got to do when I got out of law school. My husband and I, we both had loans. But we went into these programs which said, okay, pay it back as 10% of your income. So I went to work as a lawyer for the Children's Defense Fund. I made about $13,000. So I could pay it off. And I think if you do national service, or you take a public service job like being a teacher, a police officer, if you do it for a couple of years after college, it should be forgiven. And I don't want to let the federal government keep making money off of lending money so kids can get their education. This is one of the best investments for individuals and one of the best investments for our country. So we're going to lift those debts off the backs of our young people and their families. We're also going to finish the work the President started on the Affordable Care Act. You know, before there was something called Obamacare, there was something called Hillary Care. Successful, we turned around, we got a bipartisan group in the Congress, and we passed the Children's Health Insurance Program, which insures 8 million kids. So that's why I was thrilled when President Obama signed the Affordable Care Act into law. The Republicans have voted to repeal it 60+ times. Donald Trump says he's going to repeal it. You know, somebody should ask, well, so what are you going to replace it with? And if the answer is something great, there should be at least a follow-up question, don't you think? Because frankly, they can't tell you what they replace it with because you wouldn't like what you hear. Because it would just be turning it back to the insurance companies. So we're going to defend the Affordable Care Act, we're going to get the costs down, and we're going to go after the high cost of prescription drugs. And then there are 2 issues that I've been talking about on this campaign now for a year: mental health and addiction. We've got to treat mental health the same as we treat all health problems. There should be no stigma and there should be no difference between having diabetes and having depression. And when it comes to addiction, we have an opioid crisis in America. We are losing thousands of people to overdoses. They get hooked on painkillers. You read about it every day. We have got to have a strategy to try to prevent that and then to help people to get on the path to recovery and treatment. And we need a new attitude, and we need new facilities and personnel to do that. And I am pledged to make that a high priority. We also have to begin investing more in medical research again, in all kinds of research. Just 2 examples. We have to invest in finding out what causes and how to cure Alzheimer's and autism. So I think we have a great opportunity ahead of us if we make smart investments in jobs, in education, in healthcare. And we also have to do more. to make sure that we reform the criminal justice system and end mass incarceration, provide more diversion programs, second chance programs, so that more of our people are given the tools that they need to make the most out of their own lives. Now, a lot of this work is great work, and I've laid out plans about how to do it. And, you know, sometimes I know I get kidded and even criticized, oh, there she goes with another plan. I actually think when you vote for president, you want to know what people are going to do. And you want to know how much it'll cost. I'm the only candidate on either side who said, I will not raise middle-class taxes, period. Where we're being specific, we're telling you what the agenda is, we're asking you to vote on it, I'm asking you to hold me accountable, and we're getting slogans and one-liners on the other side. And that's important because you're not just voting for a president, you're voting for a commander-in-chief. You're voting for someone who has a solemn responsibility to keep America safe and to continue leading in the world. And some of what I'm hearing from Donald Trump is quite concerning, right? I mean, I think I know a little bit about what it takes to be a president, having watched two of them up close. And what I'm hearing from him, talk about, oh, let other countries have nuclear weapons. We've been trying to end nuclear weapons in the world. We're trying to reduce the numbers to prevent other countries from having them. And he talks about it like it's some real estate deal. Oh, yeah, well, it's okay, fine, we'll make a deal, they can have nuclear weapons. That is dangerous. It is reckless. So we've got to have an election that is about who should be in that Oval Office come January 20th, 2017. Trump is saying when it comes to our rights. Because, you know, Maya Angelou, one of my favorite American poets and a friend of mine, you know, she said, when people show you who they are, believe them. And look at what we have seen from the Republican nominee. I want to tell you where I stand, and you can compare. I will defend a woman's right to make her own health care decisions. And I will defend Planned Parenthood. And people need to remember that he said women should be punished for making our choices. Immigration reform with a path to citizenship. Donald Trump has doubled down on his intention to deport 11 or 12 million Americans. He's even now talking about what he calls a deportation force. Can you imagine the police and military action inside our borders, knocking on doors, hauling people out of their beds and their workplaces, 11 or 12 million? Well, that is the picture he is painting. And he needs to be repudiated. As I have said, basta, basta! And we will stand up for the right to organize and bargain collectively the American middle class. We need strong unions, and I will stand up for that basic American right. And I will continue to stand up against the gun lobby for common sense. Tragic that we, on average, lose 90 people a day to gun violence. That is 33,000 people a year. If anything else were killing 33,000 people in our country, we would be determined to find a way to stop that. And so what we need is comprehensive background checks, and the gun show loophole, and the online loophole, and what's called the Charleston loophole, and the special protection that gun makers and sellers have from being held accountable for their actions. So my friends, there is work to be done, and it is important work. And the best way we can achieve it is by unifying our country. Everybody knows that we can't continue to be divided. We cannot continue to allow groups of Americans to be scapegoated and insulted